Hi everyone, I'm Miranda, Teen Services Librarian at the Harmony Library, and today I'm here to share some book recommendations for fans of Among Us. So if you like twisty-turny murder mysteries with plenty of trickery, sabotage, and a suspect list as long as your arm, these just might be the books for you. Enjoy! The first book I'm going to share with you today is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. Approximately 1,825 days ago, an incident occurred, leaving Rami the sole survivor and commander of the Infinity, a spaceship on its way to a new planet. Aside from daily messages from her NASA-appointed therapist, she's alone in space, until she gets the news that another ship has launched and will be joining her in 1 year. Rami begins counting down the days as she befriends the ship's captain, a boy called Jay, over email, and all seems well. Until mysterious things start happening. An apparent world war back on Earth causes her to lose contact with NASA, and a shadowy organization starts sending her instructions that seem designed to slowly sabotage her ship. Jay is still out there, but as his ship gets closer, Rami begins to suspect he's not who he says he is. This thriller will have you on the edge of your seat from the beginning to the twisty finish. Next is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. A figure darted through the crowd without touching anyone, like a fish in a stream, moving between invisible currents, or a shadow between gas lamps, light never touching them. In this sci-fi murder mystery, the land of Quadera is split into 4 quadrants, each ruled by a queen who oversees the queenly law. 15 rules put into place after a terrible war nearly split Quadera apart for good. As long as the queenly law is in place, peace will prevail. Too bad then that an assassin is stalking from kingdom to kingdom, killing the queens one by one. When street thief Kara meets Varen, a boy from another quadrant, they're reluctant to trust one another, but soon they have no choice, since the alternative could mean the collapse of Quadera. Astrid Schulte has created a really interesting world here, and you'll want to race through with Kara and Varen as they try to solve the mystery of who is behind the Queen's deaths. Next up is Killing November by Adriana Mather. This is from the first chapter. The most disorienting thing about safety, my own in particular, is that it never crossed my mind before. My ex-CIA, now financial manager dad, often tells me I'm too trusting, all the while shaking his head like he's shocked that we're related. Which I, of course, remind him is 100% his fault, since I've lived my entire life in the same small town with the same friendly people, who pose about as much threat as a basket of sleeping kittens. Dad argues that I want to believe people are good, and that while that's admirable, it's also not realistic. To which I ask him how it helps anyone to believe that people are bad. He claims that having a healthy sense of suspicion prepares you for every possible danger. But until now, it was all just a theory. And if I'm being honest, even yesterday, with Dad insisting there was an imminent threat to our family, I still wasn't convinced. Nope, there was absolutely nothing indicative of danger in my life until a few minutes ago, when I woke up in this medieval-looking parlor? I frown. A man I'm assuming is a guard stands against the wall next to me. He's staring forward, blatantly ignoring me as I consider the door. I push as hard as I can on the wrought iron latch and even throw my shoulder into the dark wood, but it doesn't budge. I let out a huff from the effort and scan the room. There's a roaring fire in the fireplace and maroon velvet furniture that probably costs more than my entire house. But there are no windows, and the door in front of me is the only exit. As November and the reader are about to find out, she hasn't been kidnapped exactly, but sent to boarding school to protect her from a mysterious threat against her family. However, Academy Absconditi is no ordinary school. It's in the middle of the woods, there's no Wi-Fi or electricity. Friendships are frowned upon, and the class list is less English and math and more poisons and deception, knife throwing, and psychological warfare. As if that weren't enough to get used to, November also stumbles across the body of a murdered classmate and must somehow prove her innocence while trying to avoid becoming the killer's next victim. This book has it all: murder mystery, secret societies, creepy castle, family secrets, and enough twists and turns to keep you reading late into the night. Our next book is Nemesis by Brendan Riggs. In Nemesis, Min hasn't had the easiest life. Every 2 years on her birthday, a man in a black suit shows up to kill her, and every time she wakes up in a clearing, unharmed and very much alive. Meanwhile, across the valley in their small town, Noah suffers from nightmares of death and murder. For these teens, it's about to get worse. An asteroid called the Anvil is headed to Earth, and if it hits, all of humanity will be wiped out. Min and Noah begin to suspect that the adults in their town are hiding something, so they band together to get to the bottom of what's really going on. The answer will surprise you. For fans of sci-fi, dystopia, and mysteries, luckily the whole series is out now. You'll definitely want to pick up Genesis, the next book, after the cliffhanger ending of Nemesis. The last book I'm going to talk about today is Murder Trending by Gretchen McNeil. And this is from chapter 1. The instant Dee Guerrera peeled open her eyelids and gazed around the dimly lit warehouse, she knew she was in trouble. 50 million people are about to watch me die. She lay on the concrete floor, its chill permeating her clothes, and recalled the insanity that had landed her here. 3 weeks ago, the most important thing in her life had been college applications and securing a date to the prom. Then, the body, the trial. She'd hardly had time to process what had happened before she'd found herself sitting in a courtroom, listening to a jury find her guilty of first-degree murder. Was that this morning? Yesterday? Dee tried to remember how much time had passed since the verdict, but her mind was fuzzy, her breathing labored as if she'd been drugged. The bailiff. As the judge read her sentence, she'd heard the bailiff come up behind her. She'd expected to be escorted back to her cell, but instead felt a hand on her wrist, a pinch on her arm. It must have been a needle. She'd been rendered unconscious before they hauled her off to Alcatraz 2.0. Alcatraz 2.0. She'd heard the judge say it, but she could still hardly believe it. That sentence was usually reserved for the most infamous of convicted killers: mobsters, mass murderers, terrorists, assassins. They were notorious. They were dangerous. They got good ratings. Dee was just a 17-year-old nobody who couldn't even throw a punch, let alone stay alive long enough on Alcatraz 2.0 to gain a cult following. Yet here she was, about to be the star attraction on the #1 live streaming show in the country. Yay? In Murder Trending, the prison island of Alcatraz has been repurposed as a set for a reality show where convicted criminals are hunted by serial killers. Dee has been sent there as punishment for a crime she didn't commit, and she's determined to be the first person to make it off the island alive. After teaming up with other prisoners to form the Death Row Breakfast Club, the mysteries of Alcatraz 2.0 start to unravel. Unfortunately for Dee, her new friends might turn out to be foes instead. Creepy, funny, and surprising, this series starter will hook you from page 1. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Check out more book recommendations on our website, our teen page or our tween page, and tune in next week for another study tip.